Hello, welcome to Cinemondo with Karthi, Amit, and Melanie for Big Daisy Reviews, D54. We've all gathered here to do another review of Karthik Subbaraj movie that I've been wanting to just see all of his movies. So we're kind of going into his back catalog to check this one out. I thought the poster was very cool. So I'm like, hey, we should watch this one. So we're checking him out because he directed Pizza, which we love. But the big thing is Jigartana Double X. I just thought Double X was just the most amazing movie. It's one of my favorite movies that year. Yeah. So let's get into it. What did everyone think of Iraivi?
Which means goddess.
Was goddess.
Goddess, is it? Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. Because that this movie did sort of highlight that, which was, I have mixed feelings on this movie. Well, overall,
me too.
I think I enjoyed the journey of this movie. I enjoyed watching these three characters and more, the surrounding characters as well and what they were going through. It was entertaining mostly. Like, it felt like a kind of movie. I wouldn't say it's a slow burn, but it's definitely not super fast paced. Like, it's a movie that really lets you take your time and understand these characters and what their, I guess, demons are, each of them, and sort of seeing that trajectory as they go along. So I did enjoy that with having the women sort of on. It almost felt like they were on the side a lot of the times, which is kind of strange,
right?
Considering they were kind of, it's strange they were on the side, but they were kind of the focus as well because they were always the subjects of pain and trauma. Yeah. So a lot of great performances. I think last time we had talked about Vijay Sethupathi. I had not really seen much of his movies at that point, and I think I asked you, Melanie, like, what is the sort of appeal of him? Because I didn't know much about him, but I can see why people sort of appreciate him because he can play a very sympathetic character at times, even when he's doing villainous things. I don't know. He just has a sort of magic face that makes you, be like, oh, I kind of want to support this guy, but then you kind of see him do like murderous acts and things like that, and you're like, okay, should I be liking this guy or not? So I can see his range a lot more now. I appreciate that. And I also really like the cast. I thought the cast was really good. Again, it has Surya, like Jigatandra.
Give me him all day long, and I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. And I did not realize that was not the first time that Surya had worked with Karthik Subbaraj, and also that he had played a filmmaker character for Karthik Subbaraj. So that was really fascinating to me.
Right. That's true. It's a good point. He seems to play roles he's familiar with, right? But the other lady I wanted to, one of the actresses, this one who played the character Puni, Anjali, I thought she was fantastic.
So
she was really good, and she looked familiar. And I was wondering why. So she's in a Tamil movie called Perambu with Mammootty, which is just unbelievable.
Oh my god, that's right. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Okay. She's in that movie. She's amazing in that. And then she's also in Irata, the Jojo George movie where he's playing a twin. So I didn't recognize. I was like, I've seen this lady before. Then I looked at the cast. So she's done, I guess, 1.5 Malayalam movies. I'm going to say Perambu is half Malayalam because Mammootty.
Right.
But the cast was great. A lot to like about this movie. I'll give it to you guys before just hogging the whole mic myself.
It's like one person I just want to mention too, because we mentioned Sethupathi and we mentioned Surya. There's also Bobby Simha, which I wasn't as familiar with him, but I thought he was great as sort of he let the other people kind of take over because they're the big actors and they shone and everything. But he kind of held his own as like, I'm the puppy dog in the middle. I'm like the charming one. No one's afraid of me. I'm the good guy, and then you find he's not such a good guy. So I like that he was kind of like in the background, even to them, they just didn't really take him that seriously. And yet he ended up being like critical to all of the things that started happening in the second half of the film. It's like where everything started going awry. So I thought he was really good for that because he was so unassuming. He didn't just, he didn't pop off the screen like everyone else, but he was there, and then when he starts making himself known, you're like, oh shit. So I just want to bring him up.
I love that. It was very interesting to me. If you think about Karthik Subbaraj films, they're always, at least the ones that I have seen, are male focused. And it was very interesting to me that at the beginning of the film, who did we see first? First, we saw these women characters, and Punni is talking. She's dreaming about the husband that she'll have in the future. That we were laughing at. The English translation is that she wants a combination of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and Leonardo DiCaprio. And then I rewound it. I'm like, what did they really say? And then later she has, Tamil superstar male actor posters in her room.
What do you think it would be? It'd be like, I want a man who's just like, what it'd be?
It's Vijay Sethupathi.
Rajinikanth convention.
Funny if they said the actual actors in the movie. I'm Sethupathi, and
that'd be funny.
But you know, so I thought it was very interesting that we were seeing 3 women in very different situations. Yeah. One young girl wanting to be married, one a woman who's married to an alcoholic and has a child and is feeling trapped in this horrible situation. And then the third woman is a really interesting character who just like, yeah, our relationship is just sex, and I already love my life with my husband who's died, and that's right, I'm marrying you. And I was like, mind blown. Do we have this character? Like, what?
She's just on her own, living her own life and not dreaming of the man she used to be with.
And like, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see a character like that. This is from 2016. So it's not something, it's just, I've not seen a character like hers. The only thing the thing I didn't like about her character was honestly that they didn't give her enough time. Like, I felt like that was such an interesting character.
He was the side piece in the movie and for him. So
correct. So it sounded like there was some interesting dynamics they could have played there. But again, she was kind of like, of the 3 ladies, she was almost the third one, I feel like, when she was almost the most interesting in some ways.
Right. I mean, it was very so we learning about these, but then the focus, we have to say that the focus of most of the time of this movie is all about the men, and what they do impacts all of these women in various negative ways, but it's really about men who are just so flawed. And I mean, I found myself so frustrated with all the men in this film, and I felt like again, there's going to be lots of spoilers here, but to me, the key of the film was S.J. Surya final speech when he's just he's just like, all of us men are bad, just, and he does try to redeem himself a little bit by letting his beloved wife go and pretending to be drunk again on the phone so that she will get engaged to another man, because they're divorced, and he was about to reconcile, but then he's like, yeah, I just killed the guy, so maybe
I think it's funny he had to pretend to be drunk to get her off his back when but him saying, hey, I just murdered someone, I'm going to jail, would not be enough. Like, oh, let me pretend like I'm drunk when I do it, and then she'll really take it seriously. It's like,
I just killed this guy who was like a brother to me the whole time. That was the part that kind of let me down a little bit with this movie, which is why I say it's mixed. Like, because that's the part that I didn't fall in love with. It's just that the character development from all these 3 men was basically minimal. Like, Vijay Sethupathy's character goes to jail, comes out, and he's almost the same person. Like, he's like, he hears about a secret about, potentially she might have slept with the other guy that she fell in love with when he was gone, and he just kills him on the spot. Like, okay, you haven't reflected the time in jail, the stuff you actually value, nothing has changed, you're still erratic, you're still gonna, and he's even worse at this point. Like, he kills 2 people in the movie, doesn't he? He kills the
I felt like
he bludgeons people.
Yes, his modus operandi, because he had completely dropped his he was, instead of just being in this loveless marriage and still wishing he was with the artist girlfriend, he was focused on, I have a child, I can't wait to see my child, I want to be a father. He seeks out where his wife has escaped to live with her grandmother in the country or whatever. So he tries to create that family again, and then he throws it all away again.
It literally was a hot minute before he went right down the same path of doing something dumb as hell, illegal, and going back to jail.
I thought it was interesting that
was interesting.
We've seen him do killings before where there's rage, and this was almost like it just happened. I don't know. I can't. It's like he's so sort of downplayed. Like, I'm just gonna pick up this hammer and I'm just gonna and I'm not just gonna hit him one time. I'm gonna make it count. Like,
I'm gonna just make his head hamburger. That's what I'm gonna do with this hammer. Like,
it was just like, oh my God. But I guess, there are these men who just sort of like a Shisher's character, who is an alcoholic and takes so long to come clean that they just, they just keep falling off the wagon and they can't get themselves together. So
I guess, they also blame everyone else for the problems. And that was the class that was like, it's not my fault. Like, even said, like, but he slept with my wife, but he said something disrespectful. It was never like, you're overreacting to the situation no matter what you do. And they did it every time. And even S.J. Surya, why would his character end up just going the murder route with this guy? Just turn him in. It's like the whole thing, their compulsive behavior was the whole reason these women were having trouble. And the fact that they felt like they had to, in a way, you felt them, I need to be a good wife to this man. He's my husband. This sort of, I have to. And no matter how bad they were, they still felt like they had to hang on. I wish I'd been seen a little bit more that when the man came back, they're like, nope, more like the mistress. Like, don't want it. Bye, get out of here. You know, it's like,
I mean,
and I wanted more of that independence, you know, just a little bit.
Surya's wife did divorce him.
Yeah, she's the one. It took a long time.
But even after she divorced him,
she was a
correct. Yep.
And he still felt like, I have rights to her. And what do you mean she's meeting other people? And like those, like how he's confused that, what do you mean I can't just waltz back in there and pick up my life?
You're my ex-wife. Hey, I've been sober for 6 months. I'm sorry, that's not enough. That is not enough time to be sober to get me back. It's just not going to happen.
Well, I mean, I was like Amit, I was very frustrated with this movie and had mixed feelings. Like, these are some of my favorite actors. I really appreciated some of the performances, some of the scenes especially were exceptional. But overall, the first half of the film, I felt like, oh my God, we get so much setup. And it was very, very slow. And then I thought, okay, the second half, I don't know, I just thought maybe it was going to be caper or whatever. And it went directions. I mean, I will give kudos in that the script was something unusual, and I really didn't know from moment to moment sometimes where we were going to go. But frustrated that we spent so much time with these flawed men and not enough time with these women that were affected by all these horrible decisions and learning more about them. So I did appreciate that the pony character did have somewhat of an arc and a backbone. And I was cheering that she got on that train and just got out of Dodge and just, got out of that situation.
Did you have a moment when she was on a train and the gunshot went off? Did you have a moment you didn't think he shot him, but he shot himself? S.J. Surya. I for a second thought it was gonna be fake because they weren't showing the body. I'm like, is this gonna be a thing where he shoots himself and then gets attention back on Vijay Setupathy's character, who then gets arrested? But nope, it was linear. He shot him. It was done. I think I missed
when I heard the gunshot. I thought it was
I assumed, but then I thought maybe he'll do double cross because the director is so smart, and I feel like there wasn't the humor that I'm used to having in his movies that I've seen in a few of his movies. I really liked. It seemed like it was almost overly earnest. And then I still felt like the women weren't as independent as the fact they were dealing with such terrible, inferior men. And he still couldn't give them quite that extra strength of like just not wanting that in their life. They had to keep giving them their chance, had to feel indebted. I just wish there'd been a little bit more of that great divide between the strength of the women and then how bad the men were versus like, I'm not allowed to be independent, but he's just so bad that I guess I have to be. It's like, no, just be independent because you should be independent. Like you said, that one character, the mistress, that was sort of the symbol of like, see, this is an independent woman. Why couldn't he give that to the other women? Why did that be that one woman? It's like, who was barely on screen. But
I guess once you have a kid, there it goes.
Once you have a kid, you have to stay with the man no matter what he does. It's like, no.
Yeah. That's why the messaging was a little bit strange to me. Like, I understand the intention to be like, okay, cool. Like, men are bad. Men are the worst.
Men are the worst.
Sort of shown that in this movie, like how I think it's described as like a sort of feminist kind of movie, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's okay to show that. But I wish, it's stuff you mentioned, Kathy. Like, they didn't really show that the women are strong, independent women, or they can move on with their lives themselves. Like, they're always clinging on. It's like they're almost addicted to the drug of just staying with these bad people.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like we hear the divorce happen, but we don't see her make that decision. We don't see that play out for her. We just, it's like something that happened.
Something you hear about.
Something we hear about. And so we're not seeing her agency,
it's kind of interesting too, like when Vijay Sethupathi goes back to his wife after he's been in jail for 7 years or whatever it was. He goes back and he's walking down the hallway and he does that Sethupathi thing where he kind of gets all cute teddy bear and he kind of looks down. I'm like, no, that is not working anymore. Don't fall for it. And she fell for it. I'm like, no. And it was frustrating to me to be like, he's got his glasses on. He looks like he couldn't hurt a fly. He's a nice guy, but he keeps having these outbursts where people die over and over again. So I felt like your little teddy bear thing, even when he walked out the door after he killed Bobby, Simha's character, he still does the same thing. He's like, okay, I'm just going out the door.
Okay.
Like, no, you're not working. It's not working.
One saving grace is that the violence was all men on men.
It was.
I mean, if Vijay Sethupathi had slapped her around, I might have lost it. I mean,
that's true. Yeah,
I mean, at least there wasn't
so much. So I'm surprised it didn't happen. I'm happy it didn't happen this time. There was no violence towards women, no violence towards animals, no violence towards children.
That's true. There's no animal violence.
No, it was a pretty tame
okay. Now it's her favorite movie.
I love this movie. This is the best movie I've ever seen. I know, so funny. But I mean, overall, like you said, Amit, it's well crafted. I love this director. Like, I feel like the script was a little lacking. I feel like the feminist message he wanted to present didn't happen because he was too invested in the men and the characters and what they were going through and their failings and the way they were just on a slide into oblivion. I mean, he was more interested in that. I mean, that's just where it goes.
I mean, let's contrast with something like Great American Kitchen, where we spend all this time with the woman. We see how horrible the man is to her, because we are seeing from her point of view, right?
Yeah, correct.
And instead of seeing Vijay Setupathy's point of view in this, or S.J. Surya's point of view.
That's right. It was all their point
and you know, when I was just like his wife, like, get over it, make another movie.
Exactly. Quit whining. Quit drinking and whining. I know, exactly. And that scene in the Great Indian Kitchen where you had that great, she's walking away at the end. Like, I just love that. Oh my God. We didn't get that great scene. We didn't get a woman walking away. We got her like, you got to get back on the train, like another man telling her what to do. Get on the train and keep going, instead of her going, I'm out of here. Like her taking the choice. But
that's a really good point. It's like she's standing there. And it's not that she made that decision. It's that man tells her to get on the train. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, we had all the three men that we have focused on the entire time all end up dead or in jail. It's like, these are what women are putting up with. I did love, though, in the beginning, like you're talking about, the women talking about their dream man and, oh, my life's going to be, hugging and kissing all day. It's going to be great. And they cut to these guys in the bar going, just being total losers, and you're like, this is what women have to deal with. There's so much for Brad Pitt.
I did like that too. There were sort of elements and themes that I appreciated about that, like in terms of how we sort of grow up and we have an expectation that, okay, when we're young, we're going to have this happen to us, and life doesn't really pan out like that. It's actually completely different. Like, she's, again, even at the start, she's talking about the man she wants to be married to instead of like what she wants to achieve or what she wants to do in life or where she wants to go in life. It's all about sort of the man. That's the thing that sort of propelled
my life and a man.
So they sort of break that whole stereotype. Like, okay, that's not going to happen. Like, trying to plan for your life isn't really going to work out like that, as this movie demonstrates. And also, I don't know, it was shot quite well as well. Like, I did like the theme of the rain. Like, keeps getting repeated. Like, she's like, I want to go out in the rain. I want to get drenched, and how that's sort of symbolic of freedom and her sort of breaking the shackles. And that's how the movie starts. That's how the movie ends as well. So I like that recurring theme happening again. Like, it was, there's a lot of, like, he's a great director. He's obviously a great mind. Like, he has a good idea as to how to make this movie. But I think it just fell a little bit in the stuff we talked about in terms of, giving the focus more to, even if it's just one of the women, to be like, okay, what her journey was, and giving her the screen time she probably deserved. If they had done that a little bit more with, I guess, Punni's character, because I thought she was the most time they give time to, but even that was a little bit more under the lens, as we said again, of the man, rather than herself. So,
like, she's half a person without him. Without a man, she's just a single woman living with a kid, which is like, yikes. So of course, she's a criminal who just got out of jail, because why wouldn't you?
It's either with Vijay Sethupathi or the other second affair she has with the other guy that
Bobby
you mentioned before, Bobby.
But it's not even clear if she really ever intended to have an affair. Like, she skipped town once the guy made the love decorations. She's like, how do I get out of this situation?
I think
she did say she loved him though, but she couldn't be with him.
She said, I loved him, but I couldn't be with him because my husband, who doesn't love me and had an affair with me, had a child with me, is in prison. Like, I'm going to stick to him.
What's funny too? Like, that character, think about the Jimmy character, or the Jimmy character, is that he didn't go to jail or commit crimes. Like, he basically just set everyone up so that they would go to jail or be out of the picture. His whole thing was to get Sethupathi back in jail, which was easy because he's such an idiot, right? But another thing I think is funny when we were talking about, and maybe this is a great translation, but it's perfect, is when you talked about Tom Cruise was the dream man, Leonardo DiCaprio was the dream man, and Brad Pitt. Think about their marriages right now. Not so great. We have Tom Cruise is at like 3, and they've all failed terribly, and he's a weirdo. And then we have like DiCaprio. I don't think he's ever been married. He's just gallivanting.
Oh yeah, he doesn't date anybody unless they're under 25.
A model.
20,
he is really gross.
And then Brad Pitt now is with a model, and he's got some dubious whatever going on with his past marriages. So it's like, okay, so we're gonna talk even the dream man, the person you think would be perfect, is also very flawed. That to me encapsulates
English subtitle. We saw what you did there. We saw it.
Perfect. It was like, that was amazing. So to me, it kind of set up the movie like, oh, my dream man. When you really think about those dream men, they were exactly the same, except they just didn't murder anyone and go to jail. Their marriages just weren't right. They'd be a disappointment even to these women.
I think the bottom line is that I admire this director. I admire that he is trying to do ambitious films.
Yes.
This one just isn't to the level to me of how brilliant Jigartanda XX are. No. And I mean, you can't hit a home run every time. No. But I love you forever for putting Vijay Sethupathi and SJ Surya in a movie together.
Together.
Thank you for that. Thank you for showcasing them in a different way than some of what I'd seen before. So there's positive things to say about this movie. It's just not a 10 out of 10 for me.
It's hard when you have Jigartanda X looming over it, because that movie was so perfect and epic and great. And then when sometimes you go back into the director's back catalog, you see the growth happening, like, where it didn't quite hit the mark, but he's getting there, but again, he made a very interesting film. I'm glad I saw it. I admired it. I am too. So I still think it's worth seeing if you want to see this guy's films. And it has not stopped me from loving this director, and I want to see more.
No.
So I'm definitely all in on Karthi.
No, same. I'm just to sort of wrap it up. I'm basically the same. Like I appreciate this movie. I guess I just wished it was better. if you know what I mean. So it's like it's almost there. Like it's like, yes, you've done a lot. You've almost told me the message, but there's a few parts here which I'm not really aligning with, and it doesn't really make sense. Like, I mean, one of the other parts we didn't talk about was just, I think we mentioned it briefly, but like Vijay Sethupathi gets out of jail and his like next plan is to go back to jail. Like he almost just immediately.
I know.
Oh yeah, cool. Let's just do it.
How long did it take? Like a day?
And he's like, statues. Like,
let's steal some stuff.
You just spent 7 years in crime, like in a prison. Do you want to go back there, like just immediately, like you haven't changed at all? Like it's so easy.
I mean, it's just like I'm gonna do this easy money, and I have to help my buds out. I'm like, oh god.
And not only does he agree to this stupid plan, they're in there and they go, "Hey, we got all night. Let's get high."
Yeah, that's a
great idea. Let's get high while we wait for the cops to show up. Correct. The dumbest criminals in the world. So I was he came back saying, "I'm going to be a better guy. It's going to be great," and literally he's right back at it the second later.
I did appreciate the temple scenes, and that this year I visited some temples in Tamil Nadu, and so they definitely have all sorts of twists and turns and small rooms and whatever, and I could see how somebody could sneak in and hide, and then it would be really freaky at night if you were stuck in there by yourself in the middle of the night. I think I would be freaking out as well, even if I wasn't on drugs. So.
It would be weird enough already, but if you're going to commit the crime, just commit to the time you're going to have to spend there and not have to get high while you're doing it.
I do appreciate the irony. I mean, like the goddess. It's like this double meaning, right? Because that was the whole thing. They're trying to steal these goddess statues, and yet they don't really honor the women in their own lives, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Maybe that was also the messaging. I just wish the women had come to the forefront a little more in this movie. And I think he would have made a really good movie, but he kind of and the men were more tragic and interesting. So
we do understand when you got Vijay Sethupathi and SJ Surya, and you just want to let them run with it. We get it.
I can't say I necessarily minded it that much. It was very cool, but I just wish, But again, we're seeing. It has its flaws, but you're seeing these two actors in the same movie, and that's pretty awesome. Just in general.
It's definitely still worth seeing.
Yes, it definitely
I
is.
agree.
So let us know your comments if you've seen this. What's your favorite, Karthik movie? And I'd love to know like what your favorite movies are that he's done and other ones we should review. I'd love to know what you guys would suggest. So do that, and be sure to visit D54 for daily reviews. Subscribe, hit the bell. because you will get triple the content if you just follow one. I'm just saying, like, we're all over the place. So, and other than that, catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.